Hello everyone, it's Deb again. So in this video I thought I would do a review of my new gadget here. This is an electric water heater and it runs off of 12 volts. So you can plug it into your car 12 volt auxiliary outlet, and as long as your car's running, you can run this. You probably wouldn't want to run it when the car was off because it might drain your battery. But I am using it on this Amproad power station here. This is a 300 watt power station, and I've used it a couple times on this and it works just fine. And I actually saw this on Tristan's channel, SUV RVing. He had this in his tour of his new rig, and I thought it was really nice. And see, the reason why I bought this, just to give you a little background, is because I was going to have a little 500 watt electric burner on the inside of my rig to just boil water. Like if I wanted to make coffee and I wasn't able to get outside of my rig, I wanted to have the ability to eat and make coffee and do everything from the inside of my SUV. And that 500 watt burner, it pulls 500 watts the whole time. Well, not the whole time, but a good portion of the time it's pulling 500 watts. And I actually timed it. I plugged it in. It runs on a household 110. And I plugged it in and I put my pot of water on it with the pan that I'm going to be bringing with me. And it took a full 10 minutes and it wasn't even boiling, because when I make my coffee I don't boil it. I just get it really hot. And then I just turn the water off. I don't need the water to be boiled. And so it took at least 10 minutes, and it was a 500 watt appliance. And it takes up space and everything. And so when I saw this, I was really intrigued. The reviews were mostly good, but then there was some negative reviews, but from those I was able to learn a few things. And so I thought I would kind of enlighten you if you're looking into buying one of these, because some of it was a little bit confusing, and I'll try to explain that now. And so this is the base that it sits on. So that's the base, that's the heating element, and I've got it plugged right into my 12 volt right there. And it's got a boiling and a keep warm. You can set the temperature, and then the up and down button is for the temperature. And I think a lot of people don't realize that you don't have to boil the water, because it's actually kind of fuzzy, and it seems like that's your only choice, is to just push that button and it'll start boiling it. And it only reads in Celsius, and so boiling is 99, and so it'll boil the water up to 99 degrees, but then they tell you not to take this cap off until the temperature goes back down to 90, because that could be a burn hazard when you're trying to take this off and it's boiling water. That's why they tell you not to take it off until it goes back down to 90. It's even got a warning label right there telling you not to take it off when it's that hot. And for me, when I'm making coffee, like I said, I don't need it boiling. And so I was wanting to just get it up to a certain temperature and make it stop. And at first I didn't think I was able to do that, because it seemed like this button here was just a keep warm function, and so you would let it boil and then you could tell it to keep it at a certain temperature or whatever. And I thought that that's all that you could do, and that you were forced to go to boiling. And if I wanted to have it less than boiling, I would just have to turn off my power supply. But I figured out that you don't have to do that. You can actually set the temperature that you want it to go to, and it won't necessarily go to boiling. And again, through reading the reviews, I was able to figure out a lot of this and the temperatures that I wanted to use. And right here on the bottom, you can switch it from 80 watts to 120 watts. And so if your battery is not real big or real strong or anything, you can take it down to 80 watts. It'll take longer to boil, but it will still boil, and it won't it won't like trip a fuse or anything like that or do anything weird. And so I just keep it on 120 watts because my power stations are plenty able to handle that. And so you can only put 11 ounces in here, but that's plenty enough for me. There's a fill line. You probably won't be able to see it, but right engraved right there, there's a fill line. It probably goes up to about right there. And it's about 11 ounces. And some, at least one or two of the reviews had mentioned that it boiled over and something happened and it kind of malfunctioned, and what they figured out was that the little stopper that was in here, it wasn't doing its job. It was like stuck. And what it is, this is silicone here. This on the inside, this is silicone, and there's a little tiny hole right there. You see that? And inside that hole was this little tiny ball, a stainless steel ball. And I guess it's supposed to be some kind of, you know, flotation thing or whatever, but apparently it was causing some issues there. And so I just took it with the end of a paring knife here, and I just stuck it in there, and I popped that little ball out. Of course, it went flying across the room, but but it does come out very easily. And I was able to put it back in and pop it back out. And so for me, in my instance, I'm not going to be driving down the road using this. Usually I'm just going to be parked somewhere and using it off my power station, so I wasn't worried about any kind of water or anything coming out of that hole, nothing like that. And so I felt okay taking that little ball out. I'm going to save it, of course, but I don't feel like I need it. There doesn't seem like to be a purpose for me, because, you know, I'm not sure if it was there for the safety as you're driving or not, but I don't feel like I need it. And so I've just popped that thing out, and that will prevent some of the problems that people were having. If you read the reviews, you'll be able to see some of the reports that they had. So that little ball valve or whatever, it's totally gone out of there. And so this is 11 ounces of water. Sorry, my chair that I'm sitting on is squeaking. And I'm getting ready to make some coffee now. And I don't need this whole 11 ounces, but I'm just going to show you anyways. And so they tell you that it takes about 15 or 16 minutes to bring it to a boil, and that's true. I timed it the very first time I did it, and I just pushed the boil button here, and I timed it, and it took about 15 minutes to come to boil. But since I don't need it to come to boiling, it doesn't take as long. It literally just takes 10 minutes to get it to my temperature. And so you get the lid on really tight, and then you set it down onto that base. So you can see I'm at 77% right now. And see right there, that number, that's again in Celsius. That's telling you what it is in there. That's 24 degrees Celsius, and that's about right, because it's room temperature, about 75 degrees, so that's about right. It's pretty accurate as far as the temperature goes. And again, the first time I use this, I just push this button over here, which automatically just tells it to boil it to 212 or whatever, 99 degrees Celsius. And so what I figured out is if you push this button here right next to it with the little thermometer, you can tell it what to go up to. And so it automatically reads at 60. And if you press and hold it, it'll go faster. And I found that 85 degrees Celsius, it's about 176 Fahrenheit. That's just fine for me. I don't need it to be boiling. I just need it to be hot enough to dissolve my coffee, because I drink instant coffee. And so what it's going to do, you can see it's starting to pull. It pulls 131 watts on my power station. And so this light starts to blink to tell you that it's heating, and that's the target temperature, the 85, and 24 is what it is. And so as it warms up, you'll see the 24 start to change. There you go, it's already went to 25. And it doesn't take too long. I mean, it's very comparable to just setting a pan of water on an electric burner. It's extremely comparable to it. So I'm just going to let that run out. I'm going to try to get a time lapse on my phone, which is right behind you. And so I'll just show you the time lapse, and then I'll get back to you and let you know how long that took. Okay, hold on. Okay, so it's done now. That took about 11 minutes, maybe 12 minutes. It took a little bit longer this time because the water that I was using was about 5 degrees colder than the last time I used this. And also, I took it up to 80 degrees the last time, and I took it to 85 this time. But you can see it stopped. It's not going in, it's not continuing to boil. That light went out. So you can set it for a lower temperature. You don't have to set it for boiling. And it'll just sit there for a minute, and it'll stop getting hot here in a minute. And it'll just stay there at 85 degrees, and it'll just keep it there for you. And it's not drawing any wattage on the power station anymore. And it's completely fine to touch this. Even when I went ahead and boiled it, when I used it the first time and I took it up to boiling, it was still perfectly fine to touch this. It's not hot at all. It's a little bit warmer down here on the base than it is up here. So this is really, really well insulated. And you couldn't hear it on the time lapse because it doesn't allow for audio, but when it got to about 75 degrees, I could hear it in there starting to bubble and get really warm, and it was obviously just simmering because it's not boiling at that temperature. But now I don't have to wait. It seems silly to, you know, take it up to 99 and then wait until it gets to 90, so I just don't do that. And so now that I'm done, I'm going to go ahead and cut off the power. And that just turns it off. It'd just be like you unplugging it from your car or whatever. And then I just take it off of there. And in this cup I already have my instant coffee, and I have my sugar in there. And you still want to be careful when you take this off, because it is very hot in there. I'm not sure if you're going to be able to see any kind of steam or not, but I can feel that it's pretty hot. Yeah, you should be able to see the steam off of that. And that's plenty hot for instant coffee. Now if I'm doing oatmeal, I might go ahead and let it, or program it to go up to 90, just so that it's almost boiling, and so that I don't have to wait for it to cool off down to 90. So I don't think that I will ever use this one shot button right here just to take it up to boiling. I mean, maybe if I had some water that was questionable that needed to be boiled, I might do that, but in general I just don't need it to be boiling, not when I'm using fresh reverse osmosis water, which is all I use for cooking and for drinking and stuff. So that's it. Still got a little bit more water in there. The heating element is in the bottom. There's just a little bit more water in there that I can't fit. But I do like to pour out the water and then turn this upside down and let all the water drain and get totally dry in there. And then if it gets like a hard water scum or anything, you just use like 1 part vinegar to 1 part water, and you put it in there and you put it through a process, and that vinegar will help take out the hard water stain or build up or anything like that. So that is it. That's my new Spardar electric water boiler. I like it a lot. I really do. It was kind of expensive, but I figure, you know, if I'm using it 1 or 2 times a day, it will probably be worth the money. And I don't know if I mentioned it or not, I did get the 4-year replacement plan. So if something goes wrong with it, you know, that cost me $10. So instead of having to buy this over again for $55, $60, you know, it was $10 for 4 years. So hopefully I won't even need to use that, and it'll be a good little unit. I would not let water dribble down the front of this, because I did hear in the reviews that people were saying that this kind of got fogged up and everything because water was getting down there. So I wouldn't let water spill onto that. But it's real easy to pour. It doesn't dribble or anything like that. So there you go. And I got the red color. They have a bunch of different colors, but I got red just because everything in my rig is pretty much gray and black, and you know, this just gives a little bit of a pop of color. Alright guys, I think that was it. I will talk to you later. Bye.